Now then, ramblers, welcome back. Yeah, so in this episode, it's all about mucky pubs in and around Scunny that have disappeared during my lifetime, which isn't that long in the grand scheme of things. Last episode, we went to the Desert Rat and the Lincoln Inn. So let's get uptown and see what's gone. Okay, so we are around about 1983, 85, somewhere around there, between 82 and 85, let's say. And the big meeting place for us all us mates at the weekend. And on a Monday, for a very good reason, which we'll get into in a little bit, it was a place called Jensen's, joined on to Bins and the multi-storey car park. It was there. Originally, the Bell and Anchor, which took its name from the Blue Bell pub, which was in close proximity in years gone by. Jensen's, God, it was fabulous. Cracking boozer. But it was an odd place on face value. I said we used it at a weekend and on a Monday because all your little groups, all the lads, you had your respective community pubs. But on a Saturday, sometimes Sunday, and Monday, Jensen's was the place. So Saturday, uptown, let's have it. Have a good old blowout. And it was full of what was referred to as trendies. We were lads who were into football and wearing the clobber. It was a subculture of like-minded crackpots who just loved ale, footy and clobber. The gear, you know what I mean? Yeah. It was crack. It was the crack. And the crack there was second to none. It was fantastic on a Saturday. But bizarrely, I was thinking back a couple of weeks ago, mixed in with us lot, and we were juvenile delinquents. We were on the loose. We was having a ball. But for a period in Jensen's, you had all us lot at one end, and you had a biker gang at the other end. I can't remember whether it was Hell's Angels or it was a recognised biker gang. And just, you could not get two more diverse polar opposites. But neither of us bothered each other. It was like, they're out for the crack, they're out for the crack. Yeah, fantastic. And it was just about the ale. And you had three choices back in the day. You had bitter, if you were a bloke. If you were questioning yourself, you'd go for lager. And if you were a nutter, you were on cider. And if you were a proper nutter, you was on snake bite. Oh, that was a recipe for disaster. But there wasn't much in the way of the weekend warrior on the old white marching powder, if you know what I mean. No, there was recreational on offer, but ale was the go-to guru. It was all you needed. It was all you needed. And this is why everywhere was so busy. It was about the grog. That's all it was. Hence why most of the pubs were busy most nights. You're lucky if you get a full gaff on a Saturday now. And off the top of my head, again, most of the places that I've mentioned, they just didn't do food. Food was not a thing. Unless you wanted crisps, or you didn't particularly want the peanuts, but you bought the peanuts because every time you bought a packet of peanuts, a little bit of the babe was revealed on the picture card behind. And you thought, and clever they were behind the bar, they would take them from the edge. They wouldn't take them around that area, you know what I mean? But there was always a picture of a scantily clad woman to be revealed with the last bag of nuts. And if you really, really unlucky, and it was a bit of an older pub, like, say, the Furnace Arms, you had every chance of getting rubella off a skanky pickled egg. I'm still partial to them. Although last year I had my first pickled onion at the age of 55, and I have to say, it was horrific. Why? Why do you bother? Anyway, back to the plot. So, Saturday, Jensen's. It was a religion, looking back, yeah. It meant more to us than anything. And even if you only had, like, enough, say, for a pint or 2 pints, you didn't want to miss it because the crack was that good. Plus, after a couple of hours, most people were leathered and blissfully unaware of where they've left the pint. So, bit of mind sweeping. Never goes amiss. I still do enjoy a little mind sweep every now and again. Yeah, they're called perks, I think, aren't they? So, you're always guaranteed to get a decent amount of grog down your neck. Now, it was predominantly the footy lads. So we all supported other teams, but if Scunny were at home, the place was buzzing. It was fantastic. You've got to remember, this was at a time when pubs closed at 3 p.m. I know, bizarre even thinking back. And reopened back up at 7, although the Imp did get a licence to open at 5. Yeah, and between 3 and 5, if you were at the Imp, if you signed into one of the clubs in Ashby, you could go there for 2 hours, then back to the Imp. Anyway, besides the point, back to Jensen's. So it would reopen at 7. So it didn't even give you time, because I was down Westcliff at the time, you know, where all the bohemians lived. You just used to go to Bins, the big department store, and just go there and have a spray with the freebies, the testers, a bit of Koros or a bit of Dupe or a little bit of Aramis Devon. Oh, yes. Yeah, I love Aramis Devon still. Yeah, that's a proper nostalgia trip, that one. So you would all congregate after you'd been to the boozer and you'd been to the match. You'd congregate quickly outside Rumbelows. Why on earth did he go to Rumbelows, Mash? Thanks for asking. Because the football results used to come across. They'd have a telly in the middle of the window. They'd have a washing machine there, over there, and then a telly with teletext or CFAX. And it was printing out the incoming football results. So that was brilliant. You were quick footy, quick spray the old Koros, back to the boozer. Happy days. Maybe before the shop shut, maybe lift a couple of pairs of Farrah slacks. You know what I mean? Or a Jaeger jumper from Charles Richards. Because that was your form of exchange for beer tokens. Yeah. I think it's called shoplifting. I don't know. I didn't stop to ask. I just picked them up and went. So that was your beer money. It was the 80s. Don't judge me. They had clothes. They didn't have clothes. I was the middleman. Needs must, like I say. Although, it never leaves you, that thing. Because even though I can afford things now, I still can't stop me saying, having a little tickle at the motorway services. I know a few of my friends still partake. Because they're rubbing you blind, aren't they? I'm not paying that for a Caramac. Bizarre. Anyway, finally, I'm going to share with you, before we move on to the next pub, my absolute favourite memory that still tickles old Ernie to this day. So I said we used to go on Saturday, occasionally Sunday, but Mondays for a brief period was the place to be because it was strippers' night. 2 strippers, £1. And to be honest, trust me, when you left there, you felt ripped off. They were a little bit ropey, they were a little bit ropey. Anyway, it'd been going on for a few weeks. And it was busy. They had a back room on the side of Jensen's that must have backed onto the lift where the multi-storey car park was. And it wasn't open normally. So it was quite a surprise to us when this place was like, oh, it's pretty big, isn't it? You'd maybe get 100 odd people in there. And it was chock-a-block. But for a few weeks, the decorum level of both us punters and the strippers, it was getting a bit tacky, to be honest. If it's not tacky enough that it's a quid for 2 strippers, we added to that. But what the strippers would do, they'd do their individual act, and then they had this genius epiphany moment where they went round with a bucket. A proper bucket. Yeah, not what they'd been showing. And they went round with a bucket, and if you chucked enough money in, they'd do a double act. And the lovely ladies in question would pick a punter out of the audience. They'd sit him down. They'd do a bit of a dance for him. Individually, collectively. And then they would proceed to debag him. Oh yeah. So he sat there. One of them would generally hold the hands behind the chair. And his kecks are off. And he's undid. And one of the ladies, her job was to excite the chap. So the police became aware of this. You know, the fun police. They came aware of it over a couple of weeks. So it was coming unbeknownst to us. This was the last night that the Jensen strippers ever occurred. Because they sent a couple of undercover police. Now go grab a drink. Yeah. And I'll tell you the story. Back in a sec. Come a bit closer. So, the 2 strippers have picked a guy out of the audience. It's fair to say he was Quasimodo's uglier brother. Alrighty. He's thinking all his birthdays, Christmases, everything are come at once. As he was hoping to. So, they sit him on a chair, like I say. One's behind. They debag him. They proceed to excite the chap, which didn't take a lot of doing, to be honest, because this was probably the nearest he had been to a woman since he came out of one. Yeah, he wasn't a good-looking fella. No. So, stripper, straddles him, and oh, yeah, it was like Keystone Cops. There was filth everywhere, all over the place. Stop this. The guy is going mental. He's turning the air blue, effing and jeffing, trying to windmill the coppers. He was just about to get the ride of his life. And that is, seriously, on my deathbed, I'm going to take that one out as a parting gesture and just as a memory. So, however I'm going to die, I'm off with a chuckle. Jensen's strippers on a Monday. Unlucky, matey. He was not happy. Oh, dear. Happy days. Right. I have to mention somebody very prominent in a lot of people's lives who were suppers back then. This guy was the landlord at 3 town centre pubs. He had a massive following every time he went from pub to pub. If he was the landlord, you were there. Cracking bloke. He was not a landlord, he was a landlord. Yeah, he was one of the boys. Jack Hockey. You still see him now and again. Top bloke, top family, his Mrs. Leslie, everybody. Lovely people. He had the tavern, he had Britannia, he had the Lord Bob's. Proper old school landlord. Great bloke. And they were regarded, landlords were regarded as pillars of the community back in them days. They were, along with judges, coppers, magistrates, councillors, landlords, could sign your passport. And if you need a sign of the times, how it's changed. So they used to be able to sign your passport. I know a few landlords that will sell you one. Yeah, that's how bad it's got. But all the family were just genuine, really good people. I know it's a cliche, but salt of the earth. So, Jack, me and loads of others, you're a top bloke, landlord. I salute you, Jack. Hockey to the hockey. Yeah, good bloke. Against all the pubs I've mentioned, there was not a sarnie in sight. There was nothing. You were lucky if you had such a thing as a glass of wine. Not that I knew anybody who would order it. No, that's something you supped in the park on your own on a Sunday. If you were too stuffed and you needed to make some room, you just had a strategic sick to make. That's what you did back then. You thought, oh, I'm absolutely bloated on cider or lager or whatever. Or if you were that stuffed, you would maybe go on Pernod. I haven't even seen Pernod for sale for God knows how long. Used to have it with water and it'd turn like a similar colour to a khaki nappy. Yeah, Pernod and water. But other town pubs is a proper blast from the past, which was frequented. This was a townies pub, a real townies pub. I mean, you don't get townies anymore now. You don't know anybody who lives uptown anymore. So it was above the ice rink, which was the old Tiffany's, which originally was some cinema as well, wasn't it? And the bar had a massive window, really big window, that overlooked the skating rink. And it went by two different names. It was Scene 4 when it first came open above the ice rink, and then it was rebranded as Rumours. But it was always dark apart from this glow, just this huge glow of the white ice rink reflected through the window. It was an odd place, but I know people like Andy Harrison, old Harry, they've got fond memories of the place. That was kind of their little retreat. It was their gaff, and rightly so. It was their local, wasn't it? But town was about to get a new player. Oh yes, this place had something at the time that was just mesmerising. As shite as it was mesmerising. It got a video jukebox. Wow! Because this was at the same time as MTV. So there was this huge screen, and it didn't matter what was on it. You were just transfixed by it. And it was the largest pub of any single one-room pub in Scunny. It was huge at the time. And it was called Pickwick's. Yeah. Now, I was never a massive fan of Pickwick's, just because it just seemed, well, it was gimmicky. It was the advent of what's probably called a fun pub. And I'm just not that big on fun, to be honest. I think fun's overrated, especially when it's orchestrated. If you make your own fun, I'm all over it. But when it's a fun pub, I'm all right, mate. I'll nip down to this one and chance my arm on a 7-year-old pickled egg, and served to me in a paper doily by somebody called Barbara. Yeah, I'll take my chances. But two constants that you could guarantee every Saturday would occur in Pickwick's, and that was by about 8 o'clock at night, you had at least an inch to an inch and a half of urine covering the complete toilet floor. You were wading through it, yeah. I mean, if you went in a pair of moccasins, you weren't wearing them on Sunday. And the other thing that it had, let me just get this. I mentioned it in a previous episode, and it still tickles me. It was the bloke with the white hat on, with the white buffing smock. Cockles, Welsh crabsticks, mussels. He was a fishman in a pub in summer at 8 o'clock at night. So it was, if you're not familiar, you see him at Cleggy or wherever, any seaside gaff, Whitby, blah, blah, blah. But their stalls, this guy had everything on a tray suspended by his neck. And it was uncooked dead bait that had been retrieved from rock pools, basically, soaked in vinegar, and presented in small polystyrene cups for your delight and pleasure. It was ridiculous, unbelievable. I'm still struggling to find a picture of a fishman, and I'm thinking, did I dream it? Yeah, the fishman. Give me some comments on the fishman. I think one person remembers it, which is a little bit weird. Can't just be me. But that was Pickwick's. Yeah, Scunny's biggest pub at the time, probably, other than Bath's, which was really at its back end. It was proper one night, maybe every 2 weeks, just for some underground latest music movement or something. Or Bad Manners again. Or who was that visiting band? Who used to put was it the Glitter Gang or something? They used to put a dwarf on a wheel and throw knives at him. I don't think they're on the go anymore, funnily enough, no. But Pickwick's later went on to become the notorious Blarney Stone. If Pickwick's couldn't get any worse, the Blarney was it. Yeah, which ironically, long gone was the fishmonger, but you had more chance of catching crabs when it was the Blarney, if you know what I mean. And I mentioned about the local football leagues in the last episodes, because a lot of the teams represented the pubs that they played for. That's why there were so many pubs. There were so many football teams in the respective leagues. And one of the most noted of the successful pubs was the Brumby. The Brumby pub, no longer there. And the Brumby were winning loads of honours. And they were made up, the Brumby football team, of about 2 talented players and about 9 bullies and thugs. Yeah, you can't deny it. Same for the Ashby Star, the Poacher, the Pied Piper, the Desert Rat. But joking apart, there was no finer sight than any of these aforementioned pubs. No finer sight than after the match, massive platter of shite chips, slightly out of date bread, and just tuck in and talk absolute arse about anything. It was just brilliant. It was the crack was fantastic. I keep saying the crack, I know that. I'm not a big fan of the word, but that's what it was. It was, do you know what they call it nowadays? Bants. Yeah. Don't like that one either. If anybody does say bants, just give them a slap. Yeah, they'll soon stop it. But you just had loads of blokes ramming chip butties down the neck, soaking up copious amounts of grog that either they were having or they'd already had or intended to have. It was just busy, busy. Happy days. And a special mention. Not a lot of people remember this place, and there's a discrepancy as to its timeline, but that's neither here nor there. You can argue the toss between yourselves. So at the back end of the 80s, there was a pub that was joined on to mid-80s, that was joined onto the Wortley House Hotel. And it was called the Drop-In. Ah! It was also called Daimler's, but we don't know which came first, Daimler's or Drop-In. Most people seem to think it was Drop-In, but I don't know. Somebody's argued the toss. Little Russ. Do you know Russ? You're not Russ from Scunny. Angry bloke. Yeah. Supports Tottenham. Never won anything. That's him. Russ. He's adamant it was the other way around. But regardless, it wasn't one of my regular haunts, but I had some cracking mates in there. So if you needed to catch up with them, you knew that they were going to be in the Drop-In or Daimler's, whatever. The likes of Marnie, Gaz Clay, Andy Harper, Andy Christer, Olsey, Ruts even. It had a huge landlord called Tiny. That was him. He was all right, Tiny. Type of bloke you needed, you know what I mean? He just looked like a massive Viking. Yeah. And he spoke absolute bollocks, which is what you want, isn't it? But that list of names I give you there, it was like Pub Watch's most unwanted. But they were all top blokes. And all still are. I catch up with most of them on a regular basis. And during them early drinking days, that's where you formed some of your most treasured friendships that are still, you know what I mean? They still mean a load to me nowadays. And they all had different backgrounds as well. You know what I mean? But you were from different areas, you supported different teams, you had different jobs. They had jobs. I didn't, no, because I was shy to everything. But it was a dark place, the Drop-In. I've got a vague memory of having brick alcoves, like archways. And it was, it just looked really dated. But it was their little enclave. It was their place. And it had an awful pool table as well that was generally torn or wet through from the odd disagreement. Mainly from Richard Mann. Because he's horrible, really. And to be honest, I'm his professional wedding singer when he gets married every 2 or 3 years. And he's still horrible. But he knows that. At least he hasn't changed. So that was the Drop-In. Good place. Although Keith Chafer tells me it was the Moonlight Bar. Way before us lot could even think of getting out of school. End of the Wortley. That was it. So before I wrap this episode up, it would be remiss of me not to give the following a mention. All of which I've had some top benders back in the day. So, the Maple Leaf. Now, the Maple Leaf, bottom end of Bottisford, it's riddings, let's be honest. Try selling your house. It's riddings. Anyone who worked at Derby's Glass, so that was anybody who left school with no qualifications and it was your only option of a job. Maple Leaf was the place you went just before you went on nights. So if you were on nights at, say, 10 o'clock, you were in the Maple Leaf at 3. Got to catch a few, haven't you? Yeah. Can't remember the landlord's name. He was a small chap. And he looked very similar to Mr. Claypole off Rent a Ghost. And I don't know why. I've got Keith in my head. Yeah, I'm getting the word Keith. Don't know. Tell me if it was Keith down at the Maple Leaf. The Furnace Arms, or Bentley's, as it was lastly known. Great beer garden. If you enjoyed a drink outdoors whilst getting the aroma of, say, mystical herbs mixed with 30-year-old petunia oil on a leather-stroke denim jacket with patches on the back, like Saxon or Hanoi Rocks. That was, that was the Furnace Arm. Brilliant place. It just looked like somebody's house. Yeah, straight across road was Lucky Lost Wages, where you used to hang around and put all your YTS money in a slot machine £27 to win £3 back in tokens for 3 JPMs. Can I? Yeah, Furnace. Good pub. Should never have been knocked down. Should never, ever have been knocked down. A few years after that, you had the Riveter on Henderson Avenue. Nettie, she was landlady there when I used to do the occasional gig on her. It was bizarre. I think it was a Monday or a Tuesday. Again, busy places. The Riveter on Henderson Avenue Circle, which you can go either way around the roundabout. It's up to you, because you're from Scunny. Do as you like. And I think I played there twice, but a very, very important pub, which was on the go, which is no, I think it's apartments now, it's one of Scunny's oldest pubs, certainly, and that's the Queen's. The Queen's used to open up at 6 a.m, well, 5, for the steelworkers coming off nights, or people who wanted to be late for 6 to 2 and get a few swallies down the neck. Why not? It should be law. That was the Queen's. When I gigged there last, who was landlord? Will Hendry, yeah, who sadly passed away, I think, this year. So R.I.P. Will, sorry. Yeah, thought so very well. He did a lot for this town, particularly in the martial arts sector. Smashing bloke. So that's about it. That's this episode on the pubs. I've not even gone to the clubs yet. I've not even done the shops. I've not done the characters in town. The tramps. Could do a full one on that. But if you was to say, right, you could go back and visit any one of those pubs in that time frame and have one day there, it would most certainly 100% be the Lincoln Imp, just because it was life-changing for me. Definitely. So again, if you've enjoyed it, give us a bit of feedback. Yeah, get involved. Subscribe to the channel, please, because then that can help me keep doing this. People do seem to be enjoying a little bit of a trip down memory lane. And I'm not apologising for the videos being quite lengthy, because let's be honest, if you're watching this, you're round about my age. You've got an attention span. You're not a teenager. So cheers anyway. And come back for more in episode 4. When we'll be off to scene 3. Garbos. JJ's. Club 2000. Oh yeah. Loads to bang at. Catch you again in a bit. Thank you. Ta-da!